I got my MBA in the US, and the graduate school I attended was internationally focused. The student body was 50% Americans and 50% foreign nationals from all over the world. At our orientation, we all introduced ourselves, and one student from Norway got up and told us about his new experience with American culture. He had had a disagreement with his landlord, who was Italian-American, and in the argument, the landlord was getting really loud and starting to curse. The Norwegian student says, "Aha! American culture. This is how Americans negotiate." So my Norwegian colleague, who was normally a very low-key guy, started screaming and waving his hands and calling his landlord every foul name he could think of. And he could think of quite a few. After telling this story, my fellow student slumped down a bit and said, "I guess I was wrong about American culture because my landlord kicked me out. Does anyone need a roommate?" It's a humorous story, but the same thing can happen to your business, and the results aren't funny. The mistake the Norwegian student made was that he bought into the common belief that in order to do well in another culture, you have to mimic what you see and leave your own way of interacting behind. In cross-cultural training, this is wrapped up in something called the cultural onion. It's a model you may have seen that has layers upon layers of behavior and feelings and values that make up a culture. But it has two fatal flaws. One, when you get to the center of an onion, there's nothing there. My Norwegian classmate didn't act like himself. In fact, he abandoned his internal navigation and his normal way of interacting with people because he was attempting to put on culture. That's why instead of a cultural onion, I prefer the metaphor of a cultural artichoke. There are still plenty of layers, and some of them are thorny, but at its core, there's a heart. And at the core of our interactions, there are people. Through the maze of shifting cultures, we're really just looking to connect and listen and to build relationships and lead. It's all about heart. If you leave, by the way, an artichoke on the stalk, it will blossom into an amazingly beautiful flower. The second fatal flaw of the cultural onion is that it's completely outdated. The cultural onion is knowledge-based. That means you can have a playbook about a culture. Look on Amazon, you'll find tons of them. The model goes on and says that if you know what's in the playbook and act accordingly, you can succeed there. Well, this worked well enough when cross-cultural training gained traction, because at that time the US was learning to build business relationships with primarily Germany and Japan. Germany and Japan have fairly homogeneous cultures. So if you followed a rule book, you could pretty much get it right. Today, though, our major business players are China, Brazil, and India. All of these are large countries that have extraordinarily diverse populations that are multiracial, multilingual, and have many dimensions of culture. In other words, they look as complicated as the United States. And almost 250 years into our existence, we're still trying to figure ourselves out. In fact, we have an internal form of cross-cultural training that we call diversity training. In a global business environment, you could easily be managing people in all of these countries in one day. There isn't a playbook big enough to give you all the knowledge about all the countries you and your company interact with. And if there were a playbook, it would have to be updated constantly. With the growing ease of travel, the internet, and global entertainment, we're not cultural islands anymore. We're changing and we're influencing each other all the time. But we are not assimilating to become a uniform vanilla or mocha. We may appear more similar at a surface level, but we perceive the world through very deep and personal cultural beliefs. That makes the onion obsolete. Having knowledge of other cultures remains important, but in contemporary global interactions, just having knowledge of other cultures won't cut it. Now, you have to have skill. And the skills are grouped into cultural agility. Now, despite some of what you'll see around the internet, this is not just putting a new name on cross-cultural and diversity training. To understand cultural agility, we start in sports. And we can start with the basketball player Michael Jordan as a great example of athletic ability, agility. There are countless highlight videos that show him twisting in midair above his competitors, or going up for a shot with the ball in one hand, then changing hands while still in midair to make the shot from the other side of the basket, because that's where the best shot was. Athletic agility is the ability to react to fast-changing situations and change direction rapidly and under control. Cultural agility is much the same about people. It's the ability to communicate and build relationships by responding to cultural ambiguity and making adjustments rapidly and under control. Now, certainly very few athletes have the physical agility of Michael Jordan, but agility is a skill set that can be learned and improved. Sports coaches assess and train to improve the agility of their players. When I work with leaders and teams, the same applies. I assess the current level of cultural agility and train the skills for improvement. I've worked with scores of leaders and organizations on 5 continents, and here's what I've done to help my clients achieve by improving their cultural agility. We grow revenue by developing new customer bases. For example, while working with a retailer, we were able to increase sales by over 35%. By engaging just one new cultural market, and this wasn't even an international thing, was domestic. So before becoming culturally agile, they didn't understand, nor were they even attractive to this market. Another one is speedier integration of acquired companies. I was brought into an international acquisition project, and the integration plan was for 18 months. Now, by developing the cultural agility of both the team of the acquiring company and the team being acquired, things moved smoothly, and revenue and cost milestones were reached 5 months earlier than originally projected. Another one is successful career transitions. Companies have unique cultures too. One executive who I worked with was hired because of his previous leadership success, but his style did not work well in the culture of his new company. By adding cultural agility skill training to his onboarding coaching, we were able to move him quickly to become relevant and create followers more quickly. In summary, it's time to change the onion for the artichoke. Cross-cultural and diversity training served us well for a while. When I can walk down a corridor at a company in Silicon Valley and hear 4 languages spoken in one little cubicle thing, or tell a seminar with attendees from 18 countries while still in the comfort of my home office, I know the business world has changed. We have to connect quickly through the complexities of culture and lead with heart. Thank you.